Hey everyone, I'm Mitch. I'm one of the pastors here at Suncrest, and you are watching Suncrest on Demand. We're in episode 4 of a series of messages we're calling This Is My Story. If you've not seen the first 3, head on over to our YouTube channel or download the Suncrest app to listen to those. But today, we have a special guest speaker with us. His name is Ryan. You've heard him before here at Suncrest. He's coming from Indy at a church there that we love, and we're so excited that you get to hear from our friend Ryan today in this special episode of This Is My Story. Let's get going.
Suncrest, how we doing? Hey, it's so good to be back with you. I've been here a few times now, and even with this series, This Is My Story, I've been tracking along with you guys online, getting ready for today. And I just want to take a moment right now, and there's been some powerful stories shared from people in this church. Can we just take a moment, celebrate and honor everyone who shared their story? And just being from someone on the outside looking in, I can tell you what that tells me is that people feel safe here and they believe that they can be both known and loved. It's easy for me to get up here and share my story and then leave, but to share my story with people I know I'm gonna see week in and week out, that tells me that they see you and they trust you and they believe that this is home to them. So that just says a lot about you guys. And then I just wanna take a moment and I just wanna honor and celebrate your pastor, Pastor Greg. Can we honor and celebrate him? The thing that I love about him, even as I was watching this series, is everyone that he interacted with. He would start by saying, I remember when I sat down with them to hear their story. And just his pastoral heart. I want you guys to know how unique that is. To have a phenomenal communicator, but then also with someone that has a pastor's heart and wants to be with people. I love him. I look up to him in so many ways and honored that he would have me back to share. And so today I get to share my story. And I believe it was C.S. Lewis that said that everybody's life is kind of comprised of a few different themes. And I know that's true of my story. So I just want to break down my story in 3 parts tonight. All right, the first one is just Act 1, and it's lost. Lost. I think that's a pretty fair description of how I grew up. I was lost. And here's the thing, when you're lost, when you don't really have a direction that you're aiming at, you end up in places that you never would have picked on your own. For example, when I was 17 years old, I got arrested. Real bummer, all right? Minor consumption, could have been way worse. But I remember sitting in this little jail cell with my arms inside my sleeves because I was freezing. And the only thing going through my mind was, what am I doing? I don't want to be here. I don't want to be like this. But just having something that you don't want to be isn't enough to change. You need something that you deem worthy to change for. And I didn't have that. I didn't grow up with any kind of faith or religion. And I tell people that sometimes, and they're like, but you went to church on like Christmas and Easter. And I was like, no, not at all. We didn't go to church. We didn't talk about church. The only idea of religion that I had in the back of my mind, and I don't know exactly where it originated from, but it was that religion was evil, that religion started wars, that religion brought pain. So that was just kind of a thought in the back of my mind. And my only experience with people of faith, with Christians, was at school. I went to a really large public high school here in Indy, Ben Davis. Anybody? Nope, it's fine. Great school. And there was groups of Christians at this school, but I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't a fan. I didn't know them, all right, but from my vantage point, they seemed just a little bit stuck up. I never felt like I was accepted by them. I always felt like I was on the outskirts. And I know chances are there's probably someone here who feels like that. That when it comes to God, when it comes to your life, maybe it feels like you're lost. And here's what I mean by lost. Just simply, you're not walking with God and you're not walking towards God. That was me, and that is my life. And maybe you're here and you're saying, yeah, and I've made some pretty messed up decisions in my past. We would be here all night if I would share with you all those things. But all I can say to you, if that's your story, me too. And what I want us to look at tonight is really the heart of God when it comes to the lost. Because I think it may be different than maybe you have in your mind. I at least know that it was for me. Because what I found out later that I couldn't really articulate at the time was that who I thought Christians to be, I transferred over to who I thought God was. But let's take a look to see who God really is. So if you have a Bible, you can go ahead and flip to Luke chapter 15. We're going to start in verse 1. And this chapter is actually famously called the lost chapter, all right? So I'm going to read just a few lines here, and then I'm going to set up kind of some of the tension that's happening. So this is Luke chapter 15, starting in verse 1. It says, tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. This made the Pharisees and teachers of religious law complain that he was associating with such sinful people, and here it is, even eating with them. Even eating with them. So just to set the scene for you, Jesus has caused a lot of controversy. The way he's moving is a lot different than everyone else. And people have a problem with his teachings, they have a problem with his miracles, but the thing that is really just the pebble in their shoe is who he associates with, who he eats with. And I love that last line, that it gets all the way to this culmination of like, he even eats with them. It makes me think of Sandlot. Like every time when the kids are like going back and forth and they're making fun of each other, it's like Jesus and the Pharisees. Jesus is like, you guys are whitewashed tombs. You are hypocrites. And they're like, yeah, well, you eat with sinners. Am I right, guys? Huh? Right? I downplay it. But it was a really big deal what Jesus was doing, and it was very intentional. You see, in ancient Near East, to sit down with someone and to share a meal, we don't think about this because we eat next to people all the time that we don't even know or agree with. But for someone to share a meal with someone, it was to say, I accept you. I accept you. And Jesus, as a religious leader, to come and to sit down with these people that no one would even speak to, let alone eat with, he was saying, I accept you. Everyone that was lost, notorious sinners, tax collectors, prostitutes, those on the edges of society, those that were hurt, broken, blind, deaf, lepers, the ones that no one would touch or speak to, over and over again, he would say, I accept you. And I have come so that you could go from lost to found. He even says this really clearly in Luke chapter 19. He says, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save those who are lost. He came to seek and to save those who are lost. And I can tell you, my whole life changed when that happened to me. When I went from lost to found. When I went from lost to found. Because after, I ran into a little bit of trouble when I was 17. People sometimes ask, okay, after that, did you stop drinking? I said, no, but I did start running, all right? So whenever I thought the cops were coming, I was Forrest Gump. From that day on, if I was going somewhere, I was running. It's a horrible Forrest Gump. I practiced it too. I'm not great with impressions. But I make it through high school. I graduate. Things are looking up. Becoming a productive member of society, and I am the first person in my family to go to college. Any first-generation college people in the room? Yes, it's so great. It's amazing what you did, that you went first, but I think you can agree someone should go first, but I just wish it wasn't me. We had no idea what we were doing. Like, we're trying to fill out loans and financial aid, and we're just barely making through, all right? But my freshman year, we get my uncle to co-sign for us. I go to IUPUI. I am off to the races. It goes great. But then I decide, into my freshman year, I want the real college experience. So I go off to IU Bloomington. Any Hoosiers in the room tonight? Yes. I'm not. I was there for one semester, all right? I was so naive that I just thought we would figure it out. And some things happened, so my uncle could no longer co-sign for the loans, but I went like, hey, we'll figure this thing out. Long story short, we did not figure it out. And at the end of December, I got a letter in my little dorm mailbox that said, please have all of your things out of the dorms by December 16th. And so I call, I'm trying to figure this out, and they said, well, it's pretty easy. You owe us almost $10,000. We need that money before you can come back. Big problem, I didn't have $10,000. So I moved back in with my old roommates, my parents, and it was another one of those moments, kind of like sitting in that cell. Now I'm sitting at home in this room that I thought I would never return to, and I don't know what to do with my life. So I start doing the only thing I know how to do. I work 2 jobs. I'm working Burger King in the morning. I'm working the parks at night, trying to save up and send as much money to IU as I possibly can. And it's in this season where I'm hanging out with some friends who go to IUPUI, and they have this great idea. They want to set me up with this girl. Wasn't too excited. I'm going to be honest with you. One, I've never met her. I don't know her. This is going to be a blind date. I've never been on a blind date, but I don't think I would like going on a blind date. The other thing, my life isn't going very great at this time. So I remember talking to him. I was like, oh, I guess I'll go, but does she know about me? Does she know my story? Does she know I'm out of college? Does she know I'm working 2 dead-end jobs? And they were like, no, and I don't know if you need to lead with that. Like, just see where it goes, man. So I reluctantly say yes, and we go out. It's like this big group date situation, bunch of people. We go bowling, we play pool, and it's a great night. Like, I'm getting to know her a little bit, and it's very clear she is different than any person I have ever met in my life. And this is just a small thing, but it was real, and I noticed it, so I'm gonna share it with you. She was the first person in my life that I had met that didn't cuss. Not even a little bit. Like, my grandma cusses a little bit, but she didn't cuss. And there was that, but there was more than that. It's like the world wasn't happening to her like it was happening to me. She had this peace in the way she carried herself, and she was beautiful. So at the end of the night, I worked up the courage to walk over there and to get her phone number and to take her out on a real date. And she said yes. And so we go out that Friday night, and like I said, I'm working 2 jobs, I'm doing okay, and I'm not afraid to show it. So I take her out to dinner for a fine dining experience. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this place. It's called Max and Irma's. Top shelf. And so we go out, great dinner. And then we go to the movies, and we see the latest and greatest Nicholas Sparks film, Dear John. Channing Tatum was phenomenal. Like, it's a great night. And I'm dropping her back off at her house, and I pull up to the driveway, and I say, hey, this was incredible. I would love to see you again. And she said, yeah, that would be great. Would you want to go to church with me on Sunday? And I smiled, and I looked at her, and I said, no. I wouldn't want to go to church with you on Sunday. And here's pretty much line for line what I said. I'm a good person. Church really just isn't my thing. And I thought the conversation was over. I thought she would open the door to my Pontiac Grand Am GT, black with the windows tinted. And then we would text and figure out what was next, but she didn't. In this moment, she turns and faces me, and she's almost confused. And she says, I don't go to church because I'm a good person. I go to church because of Jesus. And in this moment, she tells me about Jesus. That Jesus is the Son of God. that God sent him here on this planet to live this life that I could never live, that he did it perfectly. And Jesus went to a cross for me and you, and he died the death that we deserved. He died to remove that space, that longing that I felt that I was never able to fill. He died to fill that. And then she goes on to say that, but he raised from the dead, defeating sin and death. And now we can have this personal relationship with God. I'm shook. Like, my mind cannot comprehend what she is telling me. There is this giant gap between who I thought God was and who she's telling me that he is. So in a moment, I changed my answer. I gotta know more. I gotta know more. So I changed my answer and I go to church that Sunday for the first time. 21 years old. And I'm telling you, I walked into a church just like this one. And I walked through the doors and I was accepted. The doors were flung wide open. I walked in, and as I walked, and people greeted me, and I just felt the energy in the room and just being accepted. It's like the preconceived notions and the stereotypes that I had about church and about God just fell one by one. And then I came in, and I sat down, and I heard a sermon. It was very similar to what she had told me a few days before, and I got to hear about the heart of the Father. The heart of the Father. That he would want to be known as a father. That he would see us as his children. That there's this kind of a God that would love this personally. And that's what I want us to see tonight. The heart of the Father. The heart of the Father for those of us that are lost, and the heart of the Father for those of us that are maybe just coming but need to be awakened to this kind of a love. And that's exactly what we see in Luke chapter 15. Like I said, it's the lost chapter, and it's really just 3 parables back to back to back. And I think a lot of times when we look at Luke chapter 15, if you've been around church, we focus on the first one and the third one. The first one is this lost sheep. And then what does it say? Even if he has 99, won't he leave them to go find the one that is lost? Or the last parable that he tells, the parable of the prodigal son, which some have deemed the greatest short story in all of history. So if you haven't read either one, Luke chapter 15, I would encourage you to read both of those this week. But the one that I want us to see is the one that always resonated with me the most, part of my story. And that starts in verse 8. So take a look at this. Luke chapter 15, verse 8. He says, or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and sweep the entire house and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she will call in her friends and neighbors and say, rejoice with me, because I have found my lost coin. And I just want to spend a few minutes here just talking about what does this story, this is hard. Sometimes we read parables like this and we're like, what? There's a woman looking for coins. The first thing I will say is you'll notice it's a woman searching for this coin, because if it was a man, he would still be looking for this coin. That's first part. The second part that I want us to see I just want to point out 2 things about these coins, all right? The first thing is that the coin was lost, but it wasn't forgotten. I think that's important to notice. And I think we have that slide there. The coin was lost, but not forgotten. And this is an important distinction because we've all lost things in our lives, and then we forgot about them. Or someone could take them right now, and you would have no idea about it. Like, this is a horrible example, and I wish it wasn't true, but like if you took some workout equipment from my house, and you came up to me later tonight like, hey, I'm sorry, I took your dumbbells. I fell off the workout train I don't even know what's down there and what's not. It's yours, okay? But we see that this woman, as she's walking, she has these coins. She knows that she has 10. Now she sees that she has 9. And it's not like she's like 9 is enough. There's something so important about this coin that it couldn't be forgotten. And the first parallel that I want to draw here between the story and us is for you, that you aren't forgotten, you are searched after. And I don't know what your life has looked like kind of leading up to this moment, but I just want you to hear that today. That you may feel lost, you may feel forgotten, but you need to know that there is a God that is searching after you. There is a God that wants you. There is a God that wants a relationship with you, and he's searching right now. He wants you. The second thing that I want to point out about this coin is the coin was lost, but it's still valuable. That's another important distinction, that just because she lost this coin, and just because she couldn't find it, and just because it wasn't with the other coins, didn't mean the coin has lost its value. Even though chances are when she dropped this coin, it would have fallen onto dirt-covered floors. It would have been hard to find. But the coin didn't lose its value. And just because if you're in a season right now where you would say that you are lost, you would say you're not walking towards God, you're not walking with God, it doesn't matter what culture has said about you, the box that you have lived in up until this point, you need to know that there is something very unique about you. And it's the fact that you were made in the image of God. You have the imago Dei. And there is nothing, no matter of life, no amount of bad decisions that can steal that value from you. It is intrinsic. It is God-breathed. You are made in his image. And even if you feel right now that you are so far from God and you could never be one of those people that really love going to church and gives your life to Jesus, I want you to hear this. No one is hopelessly lost. None of us are hopelessly lost. None of us are too far gone. Just like in this story, when one is lost, won't she light a lamp and sweep the floors until she finds the one? You are not hopelessly lost. There is a God that loves you, and you need to hear this tonight. You are accepted, and it's not just that you are accepted. The idea that it'd say that Jesus associated with sinners, it's not strong enough. It's the translation is more of like on the offensive, that he is sweeping the streets, that he is looking everywhere, under every nook and cranny for God's lost kids, sons and daughters. No one is hopelessly lost. When it comes to God, he does not see people the way me and you do. It's not good or bad. It's lost and found. It's not good or bad. It's dead or alive. And because of Jesus, in the name of Jesus, we can go from lost to found. In the name of Jesus, every single one of us can go from death to life. We got one in the back that was ready to celebrate tonight. I'm here for it. And here's the thing that I want us to see. When you begin to see that this isn't just some story about a woman looking for some change that she lost, but when the coins represent people, and not just people, but the coins represent us, me and you begin to see this story very, very differently. And here's the picture that has been burned in my brain from almost the beginning of when I started following Jesus and I read this. It's marked my story. What I see here in Luke chapter 15, it's a search party. It's a search party. And I know that's a dark image, but I just want you to go there for a moment with me. Maybe you've seen a search party. Maybe you saw it on the news or in a movie, or maybe unfortunately you were a part of one. But here's what a search party is. It's when someone who is loved is lost. And everyone drops everything that they're doing. And they grab lights and lanterns and they sweep the streets and they go into the fields and they take their lights, because even when the sun goes down, they're not going to stop searching for the one that is lost. That's what this story is. This is an urgent manhunt to find someone that is lost. Like, do you feel the weight of this story now? That this isn't just about coins and a broom and a little bit of dirt, but it's about souls being saved. It's about people going out and looking. And can you imagine if that's the seriousness to this story? If this is a search party, imagine when that coin is found. Imagine the party that would erupt when someone that was lost that you loved but was found. You never thought you would see them again, but now they're home. Jesus hints at it in the story. Look what he says in Luke 15. He says, and when she finds it, she will call in her friends and neighbors and say, rejoice with me because I have found my lost coin. In the same way, there is joy in the presence of God's angels when even one sinner repents. When one sinner repents, all of heaven throws a party. And he says, what happens in heaven should be mirrored here on earth. And that was the beginning of the church. That people went from lost to found, from death to life, that they saw this man resurrect, and then they began to follow him, and they went on as a search party. They went into new cities and new towns, and they told people about this God that loved them and accepted them and would be willing to die for them no matter where they were from, no matter their background, no matter their families, no matter their story up until that point. There was a God that wanted them as the beginning of the church. And that leads us to act number 3. Sent. You see, my story, after I went to church that one Sunday, I was hooked. And I went back and back and back again. And maybe 6 months later, I got baptized. And this is a picture of me, much younger me, getting baptized. My world was rocked. I never cared about anything like I cared about Jesus. And at this time, I had finally gotten all that money back to IU. And just in time, you're welcome, IU, if you're listening. Just in time to get back into IUPUI and just in time to transfer to a Bible college. I thought, if this is real, I want to give my life to it. I want to be sent. I want to go. I want to live out this mission. And I started with my friends and my family, and I messed it up so bad in the beginning. Did it horribly, but God still used me. And it was maybe a year and a half, 2 years after I got baptized, I got a chance to baptize my mom. This was the first person I got to baptize. Yeah. A year after that, I don't have a picture, but her mom, my grandma, got baptized. Guys, we're talking about eternity changing. Generations changing, everything changing because of a conversation on a Friday night. Because of a conversation that someone would take up 2 minutes of courage to share the gospel, to tell me about Jesus. Now everything has changed. And I'm lucky enough that woman that shared the gospel with me today, she is my wife. And we have so many kids, a lot of kids. We have our own search party that we send out every day. No, but Steph is still the person that I think of when I think of a search party. And because of that conversation, my life is forever changed. And now we get to raise these 4 amazing kids in a house that doesn't do it perfectly, but constantly points to Jesus. This is my story. But within my story, this is our story. And I'm talking to the church right now. The search party imagery, that's me and you. This is our story. I love the way Jesus described us, the church, in Matthew chapter 15. He says, you are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. Here's what I want everyone to leave with tonight. We are the search party. That when you leave here, you're not just leaving, you are being sent. We need to take back the lost urgency of the Christian mission. Because there are people just like me that are waiting to hear about the goodness of God, to hear about who that he is and all that he's offered in this life that he has and so desperately wants for me and you. So I want to place that in front of everyone tonight. I want you to have that urgency. And here in just a moment, I'm going to pray for that we would go and we would be sweeping the streets just like Jesus did. That we would be going from town to town, looking and searching on this manhunt for those that have not been found yet. And I also want to put this out there for anyone in the room, anyone watching, who would say, I don't know if God can be that good. That maybe you've been coming around for a while now, but you're still sitting in the shadows, yet to be found. I just want you to know, we would love to throw a party in your name. And we want you to know that if that day comes, if you choose to give your life to Jesus, if you decide to get baptized, that day will come and there's going to be people around here that will celebrate and clap and yell your name. But just know without a shadow of a doubt, the party that we're throwing here has nothing on the one that is going on in heaven. When one sinner repents, all of heaven throws a party. And if that's you, and if you've been just on the edge thinking about that, wanting to make that decision, I just want to put it out there. Please do not leave here without talking to someone about what that next step could look like. So what I'm going to do right now is, if you would, just join me in prayer. And I'm going to pray that we could live out the urgency of the Christian message for the rest of our days. Would you pray with me? Father, we come to you tonight. And God, we are humble because we know, God, just like coins cannot save themselves from a dirt-covered floor, we could not save ourselves. We were found. We were saved. We were rescued by you. And God, I pray that we would not go through the motions, that we would not pretend like we can just ease on by and count our days until we go to heaven. But God, I pray that you would place that urgency, you would place that fire in our bones, that we would leave here and we would sweep the streets. God, we would look for those that are far from you, those that are on the edges of the community, those that don't think that you love them, those that don't know of the plans that you have for them. And God, I pray that you would use us, that our lights would shine bright, we would sweep the floors, and week in and week out, we would gather together in this building and we would throw a party. And we would celebrate all those that are coming to know you, new family members being brought into the family. And God, we would just rest and find joy in the fact that the party that's happening here has nothing on the one that is being thrown in heaven. Jesus, we love you. It is in your perfect and holy name we pray. Amen.
For the last few weeks, both myself and our lead pastor, Greg, have been encouraging you to partner with us financially because last weekend, every dollar that you donated was going towards compassion efforts in our community. That goes to helping local organizations and helping people and families in need. And you stepped up. Our offering last week was $60,000. And all of that money is going towards making a difference in our community. Thank you for partnering with us last week. And maybe you want to continue to see life change happen. I want to encourage you to head to suncrest.org/give and set up a recurring gift so that you can be a part of investing in the community to see lives change and to see how God can do amazing things when we partner together and use our money to change lives.
Darkness run for cover, but the miracle that I just can't get over, my name is registered in heaven. I believe in signs and wonders, resurrection power. Still the miracle that I just can't get over. My name is registered in heaven. Oh, my praise belongs to you forever. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify by Jesus Christ the righteous. I'll testify. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. Sons and daughters, bought with blood and washed in water. Sing the praises of the Spirit, Son and Father. Our God will finish what He started. Oh, our God will finish what He started. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify by Jesus Christ the righteous. I'll testify. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify by Jesus Christ the righteous. I'm justified. This is my testimony. Oh, I'm alive. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify by Jesus Christ the righteous. I'll testify. This is my testimony. This is my testimony.
Every week, we pause everything we do, both in person and on demand, to remember the love and sacrifice of Jesus through a time that we call communion. It's where in person we take bread and juice, but on demand or online, go ahead and take whatever you have available to eat and drink to represent Jesus' body, which was broken for us, and His blood, which was poured out for us so that we might know what real love and real life look like. So I'm going to put a timer on the screen here shortly, and if you're going to experience this with us, go ahead and eat and drink when you're ready. If you're watching this and you're not sure that you follow Jesus or you believe anything that we've said so far, listen, I'm not going to invite you to take something to eat and drink, but instead I'm going to invite you to reflect. Reflect on what you've heard so far and be open to the idea that God is trying to get your attention. So we're going to take a moment and pause. If after hearing Ryan's message today, you're ready to be someone who says that they follow Jesus, I want to invite you to text us. Text the phrase going under, all one word, going under, to the number 94,000. Someone on our team would love to talk to you about what taking a step towards saying, I'm someone who follows Jesus, and taking the step of baptism looks like this week. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button. If you think that your social media feeds or maybe a friend would get something out of this, hit the share button on YouTube. And if you want to see more content from Suncrest Church, hit the subscribe button on YouTube. I hope that you experience change this week that comes from contributing by serving, cultivating a trust relationship with God, connecting in life-changing relationships, and caring about lost people. I hope that you experience change in ways that change you, change your world, and ultimately help you see that God is working in the midst of your story. Join us next week as we continue this series with another great story and an opportunity to see how God is at work. We'll see you guys next time.